Have you ever felt so alone that even breathing felt like a betrayal? That's how my 8-year-old self felt the day I realized no one was coming to save me. Hi. If you're here, it's because something in those words hit home for you. Maybe you've been through something similar, or maybe you just know what it feels like to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders when everyone else seems too busy to notice. This isn't just another story about struggleites, about survival, forgiveness, and finding light where there shouldn't have been any. By the end of this video, I promise you'll see love differently. So, stick around. When I was 8 years old, my parents divorced. Not the kind of divorce where they still talk at Christmas or share custody without drama. No, this was the messy, screaming at each other in the middle of the night kind of breakup. And as usual, I got caught in the middle. One night, after yet another fight, my mom packed 2 suitcases, one for herself and one for me, and we left. Just like that. My dad didn't chase us. He didn't call. For weeks, months, years, I waited by the phone, hoping he'd remember he had a daughter. But he never did. We moved into a tiny apartment above a laundromat. The walls were thin, and I could hear every coin drop from the machines below. It became the soundtrack of my childhood. Mom worked double shifts at a diner to keep food on the table, but money was always tight. She wasn't perfect, she yelled sometimes, cried often, but she tried. God, she tried. But here's the thing about being a kid. You don't care about trying. You want perfection. You want someone to swoop in and fix everything. And when no one does, you start to believe you're not worth fixing. Fast forward a few years. I'm 12 now, sitting in the back seat of our beat-up car while Mom drives us to school. Her hands are shaking on the wheel, and her knuckles are white. I ask her if she's okay, and she says yes, but I know better. Later that day, I find out why she was so tense. At lunch, a teacher pulls me aside and tells me Mom collapsed during work earlier that morning. They rushed her to the hospital. She's alive, but barely. Something about stress and exhaustion and high blood pressure. All I hear is, "Your mom might die." I sit on the cold linoleum floor of the nurse's office, clutching my knees to my chest, rocking back and forth. My mind races with questions. Who will take care of me if she dies? Will I go live with Dad? Does he even want me? That night, sitting beside her hospital bed, I make a decision. I won't let her down. I'll be the strong one now. From that moment on, I become the adult in our relationship. I cook dinner, clean the house, pay bills when I turn 16 and get my first job. I do everything I can to make sure we survive. But surviving isn't living. By the time I graduate high school, I'm exhausted, burnt out, empty. I haven't cried in years, not since I promised myself I wouldn't. Crying means weakness, and weak people don't survive. Then, one day, I get a letter. It's from my dad. I almost throw it away unopened. After all these years, what could he possibly have to say? But curiosity gets the better of me, and I tear open the envelope. Inside is a single sheet of paper, handwritten in shaky cursive. He starts by apologizing. Apologizing for leaving. Apologizing for forgetting. Apologizing for failing me. He writes about how he hit rock bottom after the divorce, losing his job, drinking too much, spiraling into depression. He says he wanted to reach out, to reconnect, but he didn't know how. And then comes the part that breaks me. I thought about you every single day, he writes. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone you reached without me. I convinced myself you were better off without me, but I was wrong. I should have fought for you. I should have been there. Please forgive me. For the first time in over a decade, I cry. Hard, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that leave me gasping for air. Because reading those words, I realize something I've spent my whole life denying. I needed him. I wanted him. And knowing he wanted me to, it changes everything. I called him the next day. We met for coffee. Awkwardly at first, but then, not so much. Turns out, he's not the monster I made him out to be in my head. He's just human, flawed, broken, trying. Over the next few years, we rebuild our relationship piece by piece. It's not easy. There are arguments, misunderstandings, moments where I want to give up. But we keep going. Because love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when you're scared, even when you don't know how. Today, my dad walks me down the aisle at my wedding. As we stand there together, tears streaming down both our faces, I finally understand what love really means. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about owning them, fixing them, fighting for the people who matter most, even when it hurts. If this story touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like this remind us we're not alone, and neither are the people watching right now. Let's spread some hope today.